Okay. Welcome to NOSIS, a podcast that celebrates no shame and struggle. Today I'm joined in the studio by a mamas group, and we're all going to be sharing a little bit about how we manage motherhood, how we feed our children, how we live life as a mum, because we all know it can be a challenge at times. So today I'm joined by the lovely Loreen.
Hello.
Hello, Loreen. And Giandre.
Hi.
And I'm going to call you Sophia. Monique. Hi, Monique. So if you could all just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your motherhood status. So for example, I'm Neenagh Seemone. I've got a little boy who is 6 years old and I am a single mum. My sort of diet at the moment, I'm a flexitarian. I eat all kinds, I'm still eating cheese for my sins. Fish and everything like that. So today, I know you guys are aware, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you manage motherhood and still have a vegan diet, because it is a goal of mine. So Loreen, I'll start with you.
Hello. So I am a mother of 7, single mum, age range from 28 to the youngest, who is 2. I eat a plant-based diet, and most of the children do.
That's amazing. Wow. Giandre?
So Giandre, married, mother of 5. So we've been vegan for about 7-8 years now. Our oldest 2, they're vegan at home, but they're not vegan outdoors. So if at school, at college, at friends' houses, just because it's not something they've known all their life. Our youngest 3 are vegan. But yeah, we try our best.
Yeah, I love that.
Hi, I'm Monique, mother of 2. Eldest is 11, youngest is 2. And food-wise, I don't have any. I think I've been leaning more towards trying to be a pescatarian because I do really like fish. But it's quite difficult at the minute trying to learn to cook things out and stuff. So I'm just still on that journey, really.
We can pick their brains. That's what I'm like. Tell us how you're doing it. So you said you've been plant-based for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
What was it that made you kind of take that leap?
It was a variety of things. At first, it was health reasons. We just wanted to improve our diet, improve our lifestyle. Obviously, as you guys know, being parents, constantly on the go. But yeah, we were vegetarian for a month. And then we were like, you know what? We've adjusted quite well to this. Let's just go fully plant-based. And then that was it. At first, when we went vegan, we found ourselves cooking a lot of the same dishes. Everything was chickpeas because that was the go-to thing. One day I downloaded Pinterest, and that's where I got all my ideas from to start with.
Oh, good. Yeah. See, tip 1 of the day, Pinterest. Okay, I love that. Yeah. Thank you. Loreen, was there anything that made you decide?
Well, most of my life I've been vegetarian, but about 12, nearly 13 years ago, I decided to go for just fully plant-based. It was more of a health decision because I had heavy periods, lots of issues with digestion and stuff, and so whilst on the waiting list to be tested for Crohn's and things like that, I just decided to give it a go myself, and as soon as I cut out dairy, everything improved.
Really?
3 weeks. My first period after becoming plant-based was no pain, it wasn't as heavy flow. The period didn't even last as long as it had before. So.
Wow. You see, I didn't even know there was a correlation between menstrual cycles and diet, but I suppose your diet impacts everything, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
The hormones, and I guess the way that you actually just manage day to day, because I find every now and again I'll do a fast and I'll, do smoothies or juices, not actually eat anything. And I find that my back and my neck and everything just feels no pain. Whereas when I'm just eating for the sake of it, I wake up oh gosh, what happened to me last night? So yeah, that's really interesting. And you're saying you're thinking about pescatarian life. How do you think your kids would deal with that? Would they be
all right? Because I do eat a lot of fish anyway. So I think because my daughter loves salmon, it's kind of easy for me to kind of incorporate. But I think I don't know. I think part of me is like, because the kids shouldn't stop them from eating certain things. I think that's my thing where I'm like, maybe I should still allow them to enjoy the food. And then, I think that's the issue. Like, I can eat it, but I'm like, am I being bad to them? When I think about it, no. Like, as you said, like, if it's something you've always known, you're not going to know any different. So I think I need to just remove that thought process kind of thing and just implement it, really.
And they can still like enjoy things if you were to go out somewhere or go to families' houses.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt so bad. I had my son's sort of birthday meal and there was a cake that was not vegan and we had a vegan child who obviously couldn't eat the cake and I saw him. I thought, how does that mum deal with, being in that situation?
That we deal with, like when taking Nala to birthday parties. The parents are like amazing and they'll always cater for her, but I don't expect them to go out and like get like a specific vegan cake so she can have some of it. But last week was our first experience where she was like, is that cake vegan? And I was like, no, it's not. And she was like, so what am I going to have? And then I was like, I'll go and get you a vegan cake from the supermarket. But they'd put like little chocolate treats in for her to just obviously make her feel included. But yeah, that was the first time where she was like, that cake, is it vegan, Mum? And I was like,
oh, that's super cute though. That she knows. My son's a bit like that with milk. He'll be like, is that cow's milk? I'm not allowed that. And I'm like, go on, son.
I love that they're just so aware.
Yeah.
At such a young age.
But
I think they are. They're adaptable. I remember being, funnily enough, I was about 10 when my mum was pregnant with my younger sister. And my mum completely went off all meat, all fish, everything. So she pretty much became vegan for that pregnancy. But just because I was intrigued at everything she was eating, I joined her on that journey. And that's when I became vegetarian.
Right.
Amazing.
So I was like 10 and I just didn't think twice. And then I never touched any meat or fish again until I was about 18.
Wow.
I was just at my grandma's house one day and thought that smells really good. A bit of that. And then I was off the meat and fish again. And then when I got pregnant with my son, I just had a craving for chicken. So I was like, I'm just going to have whatever my body tells me to. So I've had moments like that within my life. But yeah, it's pretty much the past 12 years. But my daughter, my youngest daughter, she'll be 13. She was vegetarian till she was about 2, but she had eczema. She's the only one of my children that has eczema. And we decided, me and her dad, decided that we'd try her on a vegan diet. And she's never looked back. She doesn't even remember ever eating cheese or anything like that. But her skin was really bad. We used to have to bind her hands at bedtime because she'd really claw at it. She was losing hair and stuff. And then as soon as we put her on a plant-based, she's got gorgeous skin and amazing hair, and she's never really had the same issues. Yeah, so there is something to be said for diet and health.
Yeah.
100%.
So how do you find with the shopping for the stuff? Like, do you find there's a lot of variety in all the supermarkets, or do you go to like
I'm kind of, for the most part, a purist, so I eat plants, do you know what I mean? So I'm not really interested in alternatives.
Okay.
So I find it easy, if you know how to cook vegetables. I eat a lot of salads. I've always been a salad queen. I love my salads.
We love your salads too. She makes them. I just love when you cook. Make anything. It's always divine.
Thank you. So yeah, I find it pretty easy. I think, if you can cook, you can cook. It doesn't matter what it is. And, even my family, there are a lot of my family who are very carnivorous, but when they eat at my house, they don't miss it.
Yeah.
It's about flavours and textures.
Yeah, you put layers in and you use like nuts and you've got texture somehow. I'm like,
and the spices that you use.
Yeah. So do you plan your meals at the beginning of the week? How organised are you guys when it comes to meal preparation and what you're going to feed your family for the week?
I love meal preps.
Okay. How does your meal prep look?
I do meal plans every week, and that's just easy for me because I can batch cook because I work as well, so I can batch cook and know exactly what I need ingredients wise. I just think it's so much easier. A couple of my children are on packed lunches and stuff as well, so it's just good to know, right, this is what we're having this week. The children get an input as well, and that's a good way to get them to eat and try new things sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
And also you can assure that they're going to eat everything that you cook because it's what they enjoy.
Yeah, that's good.
And on packed lunches, how does a vegan packed lunch work? I just can't even see it. Okay, so fruit, more than one piece of fruit?
Oh yeah, so they have like 2 to 3 pieces of fruit.
Okay.
It depends what their main meal looks like. Sometimes they want me to make them I make them patties.
Okay.
I make them pasta dishes. We have hot pots, so if they want rice and something, they can have, my daughter and my son's 2, and he goes to nursery, and everyone's like, what's he having this week?
Do they heat up the food for them?
No, I've got like
The heated.
flasks that are heated.
Oh, so you
they
send
can
them with
keep the food hot for up to 6 or 7 hours.
That's really good, that.
Ding
Yeah.
ding. I need a notepad. No, it's all recorded.
So, yeah,
Good.
you can get really good flasks. You can get really good lunch boxes that keep the food warm.
Are they called bento boxes?
Yeah, like bento boxes.
I've been looking at them,
Why
but
are they so expensive?
They are
They
very
cost
expensive.
an arm and a leg.
can you recommend a good one? Because some of the reviews I've seen are like spilling out, or they're not keeping the food hot.
I'm still looking for those.
Are
I
you?
mainly use these flasks that
Right.
I've had for years. I cannot get them anywhere. I don't even know what they're called because the name's rubbed off.
Okay. Old school.
But bento boxes, yeah, I'm experimenting with those.
Okay.
It's great. But I will make, homemade pasties, patties, pies, whatever, because the children will eat those at room temperature.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Amazing.
Just wrap them up.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever they fancy. And then coconut yogurt my son likes.
Oh, so that's something that you can buy, or do you make that?
You can, I buy the coconut yogurt. But
Okay.
Yeah, he likes, plant-based yogurts.
Nice.
And then he'll have snacks. So maybe we might make flapjacks, or we might make banana bread or something like that, and put that in his lunchbox as well. And then sometimes he'll have coconut water or just spring water.
So you'll meal prep on like a Sunday, then you'll do your shopping
on
a Monday, then you'll batch cook something maybe.
Yeah.
And then when would your next cooking day have to be? You have to cook every day.
I personally have to cook every day. It's like an addiction.
You love being in the
It's
kitchen.
therapy for you though, isn't it? Actually.
That's what I say,
Yeah.
I like, everyone's like, oh my God, how much time do you spend in the kitchen? I was like, and I'd said like, oh, it depends. If the kids are at home and it's holidays most of the time, but I enjoy it because it is like therapy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you enjoy being in the kitchen too?
Yeah, I
I've
do
been
love
at
it.
those stages in my life. I'm not there at the moment. I don't know why. It's just, I don't know what it is. I've just not, I've just not been in the kitchen the same, and I want to get out quickly. I'm like, okay, let me just get a little bit more. I think it's because I am not doing the whole meal prep thing.
Yeah.
I think because if I was to write down what I would eat in a week, I would be like, oh no, you need to stop eating cheese. Stop. Because if I looked, I'd probably have cheese 3 times a week in my dinner. But yeah, I feel like meal prepping, trying to go a bit more down the plant-based route might entice me to try some new things. So what about you? Did you say meal preps? How do you do yours?
I did meal prep at one point. Obviously, we've just had a baby like 8 weeks ago, so that's kind of at a halt at the minute. But meal prepping 100% makes life easier. Just grabbing stuff from the fridge or the freezer, warming it up, good to go. But currently, I'll just cook. Me and Brandon will take turns which one we can get in the kitchen quicker anyway. Because if I'm breastfeeding, then I'm tied to the sofa for God knows 5 minutes or 50.
Yeah, just don't know, do you?
But yeah, I definitely agree with Lorene. Meal prepping's the way forward.
I think it's cost effective too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not wasting anything because you know that everything that you're buying is for a purpose.
Yeah.
You're using it for something.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think that's where I go wrong. I just go in and I buy loads of things, and then I'm like, but there's always something missing for the dish that I need. And I'm just like, why are you like this? I always blame it on ADHD, but actually I just need to make a list and like follow it through. So I know what I need to do. What about you?
I do meal prep, but I'm very I eat a lot of the same things. I'm very one of them people.
Yeah.
I'll just eat the same thing, and then I'll find a new recipe, then I'm like, oh, add this to it. So I do meal prep and stuff, but I think the kids eat things that I don't necessarily like. So I don't enjoy cooking because I don't like wasting food. So they like lots of carbs, I don't. So my daughter will eat pasta every day of her life, pasta. And I'm like, no, it's making me fat. So so that's just the thing. But I do meal prep. I'll just like season meat or whatever it is and then keep it, then just mix it up with like what veggies and stuff I'm going to add to it. But I would like to get a lot better with the plant-based and stuff like that, more veggies and stuff. I think I'm just like what you're saying, it's like moments where you're enjoying it and then you're like, oh, this is long. And you're like, oh no, it's really good. And then you're like, yeah, so I just need to get back in there because I think there's a few like plant-based places that I've been to. Yeah. And I have moments where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to let them cook my food. And then I'm like, you're spending so much money, you could just do it yourself, do you know what I mean? And I think it's just finding it within myself to be more like Levine and just you know
what I mean? It's hard to eat. I think it's hard to eat out. Do you find it harder to eat out as a plant-based eater?
Because I think when I go to the restaurants and like they're making the vegan dish, once I've had it, I'm like, this is a disappointment. I can make it so much better at home, and I've paid X amount for a basic dish.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's basic, you know. A lot of the plant-based alternatives or options, that's the word, are not. There's no much creativity that goes into it.
Like it lacks flavour. They've like jackfruit was like a big thing. Well, they'd use it obviously as a meat alternative. And like a jackfruit curry, and I'd say to my husband, like, this is so bland. They haven't cooked the jackfruit properly. And we've paid a lot of money for a boring dish. We could have stayed at home.
And fed ourselves for 3 weeks. I think that's something I find. I find plant-based menus inflated somewhat when actually the ingredients should be cheaper. Because it's really the meat that you're paying silly money for. And then when you look at like fast food, convenient food, there's just not the options like, you know, that the same options you'd have as a meat eater to eat for reasonable prices. So the way that you guys are doing it, I think, is probably a combination of just being very organised, but also it makes more financial sense to do it like that. So I've definitely took some tips from that. I'm not going to stay on diet all the time. I'm just looking for that inspiration. Something else I wanted to cover today was really sort of our backgrounds, cultures, where we came from in terms of, you know, our heritage, our background, and how that kind of has filled into how we live our lives now. So does that make sense? So my background, although I was born here in Manchester, my heritage, my dad's from Jamaica. He came over when he was 9. My mum is of mixed heritage. She was also born here. She's half Jamaican, half Irish. So I guess technically I'm 3/4 Jamaican, but I've only been to Jamaica twice in my life. And I find like my dad coming over here and sort of having many women. He's got 5 baby mums. He's proud of it. He wanted a football team of children. He's got them. We came from different households, so, you know, we did grow up quite close with each other, but I think as we've grown older, everyone's sort of gone in their own directions, and I have then moved on into a relationship with the father of my child, who is also Black, British, Jamaican, like me. So I think once we've sort of talked about our background and our culture, we can try and see whether there is any patterns in how we're living, basically, if you're comfortable to talk about those things.
So I was born in London. My dad's Nigerian and my mum's Jamaican.
Okay.
So that was a crazy mix in the 80s when I was born, because it was really unheard of that the African and Caribbean communities kind of came together in that particular way.
This is true.
But I am so grateful for my upbringing. My mum and dad were just so open with each other's cultures and embracing each other's cultures. So I've just grown up with the best of both worlds.
So you grew up with both of them together? They stayed
my
together?
mum and dad, they split when I was maybe 11.
Okay.
But they have remained, you know, co-parenting and really close because you know, they were together as teens.
Love that.
So they've got that great dynamic, and always, you know, my mum and dad, when they split up, my mum always used to get me involved and take me to my dad's mum's, who's Nigerian, and made sure that I knew what my Nigerian culture was and vice versa. So yeah, it's really, really important to me.
That's amazing.
That's what I've continued with my children. I've kept on cultural traditions. Like all my children have had a naming ceremony, which is a West African tradition. They are very culturally aware. Their dads are Caribbean and African as well. So yes, it's a melting pot in our house, basically. But everybody has a strong sense of identity, which I think is really, really important.
Because that can be lost in sort of the Western world, I guess, in the diaspora. So for you then, because you've got both in one, what can you see as the difference in cultures? Because I find it really hard to say. People are like, you know, what is Jamaican culture to you kind of thing? And I struggle to answer that question because for me, I felt I was brought up in quite a westernized way. Like we were just trying to like be British. I didn't feel there was a strong sense of culture in my upbringing. So for someone who's sort of experienced embracing both cultures, what can you share about the differences?
I get what you just say. I mean, I think because there was a melting pot of both in the same household. I think for me, probably the lines are blurred. Do you know what I mean? I grew up with my mum speaking patois in the house at the same time. My only regret, I suppose, is that my dad didn't teach me Yoruba growing up. It was like, we're going to speak English in this household. So I think it was, even though my mum pushed for it, I think it was very difficult because, like you say, sometimes with my grandparents, the struggle to fit in because of Windrush generation coming here, they didn't want to hold on to certain Caribbean traditions. They wanted to become a bit more Western. And I think it's similar for some African communities as well. So I think with me, with regards to my identity, I think there's more of a pull towards my West African heritage, just because culturally and traditionally, in terms of rituals and cultural practices, that's what's been upheld the most. But at the same time, you know, my grandma, she would give you, you know, the parables from, you know, the Bible and stuff like that. And she would also give you proverbs. You know, grew up listening to Miss Lou and her stories. I don't know if you know of Miss Lou.
No.
She was a Jamaican poet and storyteller.
Okay.
So we grew up with her stories. Equally, we grew up with the Nancy stories. And then it was, you know, cooking was a big thing. And it is a big thing, both sides. So I grew up cooking with my grandmothers. So Caribbean recipes and processes. Equally, the Nigerian side of things. Amazing. So I think there are a lot of similarities, and it does actually cross over. And for me, I think you can see where we were displaced from Africa because some of those traditions are naturally upheld by the Caribbean community. Even if they're not aware of the origins, I can see the similarities in both sides of my heritage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Louise. Deandre?
So I'm born in Cape Town, South Africa. So is my mum, so is my dad. Actually, I forgot my point here.
Culture, so you was born there.
Yeah.
When did you come here?
So when I was about 11, 12, but then I lived here for a bit. I was like back and forth up until maybe the age of 16. It was a very big like culture shock moving from South Africa to here. So hence the back and forth. I said to her, oh my God, like I can't stay here. This is awful. And obviously she moved to Stockport, which is at the time wasn't very diverse. So yeah, my oh my God, I keep thinking about his baby, like okay in there.
Your husband is doing absolutely fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
You were saying about being in between both. You didn't like it here. You was in Stockport, not very diverse.
Yeah. So yeah, my mum. So then I went back to live with my grandma because that's who I stayed with in South Africa. My mum stayed over here. And then she was like, no, when I was 15, 16, she was like, no, you need to come back. Like, you just need to be here. You'll adjust, whatever. So yeah, then that's that. My husband's actually Jamaican. And funnily enough, we had our wedding in South Africa in December. So that he always says South Africans are so out there. We're so loud. And I was like, yeah, but you're Caribbean.
We're supposed to be loud too.
But yeah, no. So that was good to see, like the Caribbeans and South Africans mixing together.
Love.
And my family love him, like, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What was it that brought your family over to the UK?
So my mum, at the time, she was a nurse. She's a doctor now, but it was when they were looking for nurses and teachers.
Right.
So that's why she came over, and she actually came over by herself, she's a very brave woman, because honestly, I couldn't have done that just because of how different it was. Like, honestly, I was so like, when we came to Stockport, I was like, oh my God, Mum, like, this is horrendous. Like, why have you moved here? Like, it's cold. Everything was just awful. But yeah, so that's why she moved over here, just when they needed nurses and teachers, to be honest.
And she liked it enough to stay.
Yeah.
Do you think that's to do with the sort of financial side of, was nursing not paid as well in South Africa?
Yeah, I think there was that as well. Maybe it wasn't paid as well over there, but I think it was just an opportunity as well to have a better life. Like, I mean, I love South Africa. I love my country. I'd go back there tomorrow if I could afford it. The lifestyle over there is just dead expensive.
Is it?
Yeah, it's really, like, your kids going to school, you can't put them in a mainstream school. Like, you need to be able to provide private education.
Right.
Just because they'd get lost in the system, they won't be able to get anywhere in life.
Right.
Schools are obviously overcrowded. Teaching's awful. Yeah. So, I mean, I got a better quality of life, but, you know, I'd go back home in a heartbeat.
Yeah, just for the sort of cultural side of things, it feels...
like my village is over there.
Right.
All my family are over there. So over here, it's just my mum, and then I've got 2 brothers. I've got, like, an auntie in Reading. I've got some family, like, scattered everywhere, but... Yeah, my village is over there. Like, when I was home in December, it was just so nice to be around everyone. Like, yeah, honestly.
How often do you get to visit?
Not that often.
No.
That was the first time I'd been back since maybe about 5 years prior, and that was for a funeral. So I've been finding myself going back literally just for funerals.
Okay.
And I said to my husband, like, in 5 years' time, we're moving over there. We're taking our kids and we're going to go live in South Africa.
Love that.
Around my family. Like, I need that. Yeah.
And is he on board with that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited. How did it come?
He's like happy.
That's amazing. Honestly, I'd leave this country in a heartbeat. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
And Monique?
So my dad's Jamaican. He came here when he was about 11. My mum's from Caribbean. Yeah, but I think the one thing that I think I've taken, because my dad's a really good cook, and I think that's why I don't enjoy cooking, because I could phone my dad now and he'd make me a banging meal, do you know what I mean? And I think I do find that Jamaican men can cook. I think that's just a very big thing. So my dad loves that, and it's like, I don't want to take that away from him, because sometimes if he cooks and I don't want it, it's like, not that he's offended, but, you know, it's that in him, like, this is what I do kind of thing.
That's my job.
That's very much his, like, the one thing that he's always brought, like, my dad, listen, if you're having a party, phone me. My dad will just give him the Dutch pot and a meat and he's good to go. Like, but yeah, I think it was just, I wouldn't really say I feel like I have a lot of, I think as I've got older, I've learned to understand different cultures and stuff. But I think as a kid, like, it was very westernised. My mum, my nana came here. I'm not sure how old she was, but she was a nurse. So then my mum's kind of gone into the whole system of just being like, you got to go to school, college, uni, do you know what I mean? And we've kind of had that instilled in us too. So it was just very westernised, I guess you could say. There wasn't much, I would really, like, yeah, a bit of music, a bit of dance hall. But other than those little things, I wouldn't really say we had any traditional things in our household. So yeah.
Okay. And do you think, I think one of my questions deep down, because I always wonder, like, how did I end up a single mum? Because there's that stigma around that word, isn't there, being a lone parent? And I think I'd have never planned to have a child and end up, like, not staying in that relationship. So I always try and go back and be like, okay, how did that happen? What was the sort of input? And I think sometimes that westernized way it kind of like pushes people away from each other, and the culture isn't strong in the sense of, okay, I don't think Black British Jamaican people have a strong sense of that identity and that culture generally. Some families do, obviously, but I think me and my ex-partner came from that sort of westernized Jamaican culture, and I think that's got a lot to do with why we struggle to communicate and stay together. So I think my question is, having sort of different backgrounds, different cultures, how do you think those cultures affect relationships and how we then end up presenting in relationships and procreation?
I think it's more like, I think if you look back in generations, they didn't have a lot of things. We had technology, all those things come into play. So I feel like, and obviously we talk about a lot of mental health now. We never did that. So I'm saying, I feel like it was very important to keep families together. Whether you were happy, it was about that family dynamic. And I think back then it was important to have two incomes, or the mum was there providing food and the husband was, and I think those things was more important back then. And I think as women are becoming more empowered, we're like, I can do it myself. And I think, or it's like, well, I'm not staying with you if you're affecting my mental health. And I think it's all those new things that are kind of more spoken about. That's what I think it's come from. I think no one has a baby and think, I don't want to be with him. I don't think it's that. I think it's more just realising that your happiness matters. And how does that then affect your child? And do you want to pass this on to your child, and breaking all these generational curses? And I think a lot of things just weren't spoken about. And and I think, obviously, I think maybe coming from our parents coming from Jamaica and all those countries and coming here and seeing a different way of life, it's probably like, oh, me have a big girl now. There's more going on. Whereas back then it might have been, like, I feel like sometimes you watch old films and it's like they've got other women, but it's kind of hushed. Like, they know about it, but I'm the main one. You know what I mean? It was kind of just, it was there. It just wasn't. I just feel like, but now we're more like, nah, you're going to have me and only me. And you know what I mean? I think there's just a lot more going on. Technology, a lot more self-love, a lot more mental health. I think all those things have impacted how we raise children now. And I think that plays a big part, in my opinion, anyway.
I would agree.
I agree. I think that there's language for things now. Like my mum and dad, when they got together, it was the stigma was there because my mum was from a Jamaican background and she was with an African man, and vice versa. And I rate my mum and dad because they fought for their relationship. They were teenagers, do you know what I mean? And they fought for their relationship, but they had their own issues and battles that they were fighting just individually within themselves. Do you know what I mean? So they fought for their relationship. It was very tumultuous, and there was a lot that they didn't speak about. They were a very strong unit. We were brought up really well, but equally I remember the day I came home, my mum said to me, your dad's gone. We've decided we're going to call it a day, and your dad's gone. And the peace that we had in the house, the whole mood changed. And I said, I understand it. And I was really, really grateful for that. Do you know what I mean? I know it must have been a hard decision for them both, because there was no denying the love that they had for each other. But when you put your children first and put yourselves first, there was just a calmness in the house that we hadn't experienced for a very long time. So I think, I get it. When you get into a relationship with somebody, you want to be with that person. You never think, I'm going to have children with you, but we're going to break up. But the rate in which you grow, my eldest son, his dad and I were childhood sweethearts. But by the time I had my son, his dad just wasn't in a place where he was ready to make that commitment and put family first, And so I made the decision that, I didn't come back to London to be messing about. So bye, I'm taking our boy and I'm going back to Manchester. Because I want a better quality of life, and I don't regret that decision. And I think, if you spoke to my son, he probably would be grateful that I made that decision as well, because, I don't believe that London is the place where my son should have grown up.
Okay.
I think there's different opportunities. He's a different type of child. Well, he's a young man now, but I just think, the opportunities that he has here and the peace and just being a stone's throw away from greenery and nature is the kind of upbringing that I wanted for my children.
Yeah. And they're all so well, they present well. They're like a little village within the village. I love watching your family together, honestly. Very, very beautiful.
Thank you.
Done a great job.
Thanks.
Giandre, the only married one in the house. How did you do it? How did you meet? Tell us this beautiful love story, girl.
How did we meet? Well, Brandon was in university in Manchester. He worked at Jumbo Phones for You.
Yeah. In town.
Well, he worked at the Stockport one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
dude.
Funny, I walked past the shop one day and I was like, ooh, he's new. Who's that? I went into the shop one day, pretended that I needed something, and I was hoping to see him, and that was it. That was literally it. We started speaking at, I think, Facebook. He dropped me a Facebook message. And then, yeah, here we are.
Wow. That's so cute.
Children later.
Started at phone, so you know here. I love it.
I know. It's actually so funny. Like, when you think about it, literally, because I said to my eldest daughter, she's 16 now, because she always says, like, how did you guys meet? And I'll tell her, and she's like, that's hilarious. So you just, like, put out the bait for Dad, and then he took it. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I went fishing. Found my fish. He's your daddy. I love that. Love it. So that's been you guys ever since. So how long have you been together?
So we've been together now, I think 15 years. Yeah. And
you seem to have a very balanced relationship. Is there anything that you guys actively do to, you know, hold space for each other? Because you have got 5 children, haven't you?
Yeah.
So how do you guys manage having that time for you? Do you manage it, or?
It's obviously quite difficult. Like, even now with the baby being here, in the evenings, like, once we've put the kids to bed, because we tend to divide and conquer, basically. It's the only way we're going to get anything done. So while he puts Nala and Zion to bed, I'll have the baby with me in the carrier, and I'll do whatever needs doing downstairs, lunches, cleaning, etc., etc. Obviously, the older 2, they're self-sufficient, so they sort themselves out. But we try and put, like, just time aside in the evening, whether we're having a conversation or, like, watching a movie, just to be together without the chaos. And yeah, it's just nice to have that. We're very much aware that the date nights will come in the future. We're just currently enjoying the now.
Yeah. I feel like being indoors sometimes and just having that little, it's still quality time at the end of the day, and that almost, I guess, having as much going on as you guys do, that is a form of a date night, because some couples just probably wouldn't even get that opportunity to be together at all in the household. So
I know.
That's amazing.
But no, we try.
I love that.
When the kids are older, we'll have plenty of time to be alone.
You will. I always forget that they're going to get older and then probably not going to, like, need you as much.
Yeah.
I part of me looks forward to that, but also I'm like, then what do I do? What am I supposed to do with that?
I had the realization the other day that, oh my God, like, one day we'll have to downsize. We'll be just us 2. Like, and it was, like, really sad to think that the kids won't always be in the house with us. I mean, Nala, she said she's never leaving me. She's going to marry me and everything.
I love that.
But yeah,
But you'd probably end up relocating anyway by the time that... Do you think the kids would stay in South Africa?
Destiana, so the eldest one, she was like... She likes going to South Africa for a holiday, but obviously her life is here. She was born here. She was growing up here, so it's a lot different for her. Nala said the flight's too long, so she's unsure what she wants to do.
How long's the flight?
Oh, well, it was a 24-hour day travel. Oh my God, with all those kids. Hell.
Was that just because there was no direct flights, or is it just too expensive?
Direct flights. It's just connecting here, there, and everywhere.
Oh, wow. Don't know why they do that.
Honestly, I think from London you can get a direct flight to Johannesburg, but still, that's still a 12-hour journey.
I feel like even that, they make it quite difficult to travel to certain places, and I feel like there's an element of gatekeeping there, as much as it's not right. I find it difficult traveling now because my son's had to go back into school, which is a sore subject. But now, not only am I paying for him as if he's an adult, I have to go in holiday time.
Yeah, which is more expensive.
More expensive, but they've changed the law now, so it's not like you can just take them out and pay that £60 fine, because I'll do that to go out at the same time. But now I think if you get 3 of them fines, they take you to court.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, seriously taking it really serious.
I can't remember what year it was. So Marcus is about to be 13. He was 6 at the time, so he was already in school. But we went to Disneyland, and it was during school time. And I remember getting the letter because they fined per parent, and I was like, as if I have to pay to take my children, like, to do something enjoyable. And I remember I sent this big, because they summoned me to court because I refused to pay the fines. Did
they charge you per child?
Yeah, per child, per parent. Yeah, and I was like, I'd emailed and I'd said, this is ridiculous. But basically, they threw the case out anyway, and I didn't pay the fines. Okay. And that was that. And I know they are getting a bit more stricter, but I just think it's insane that we have to pay double the amount to take the kids on holiday.
Right.
like, just give us time off.
I know.
Because they've changed it now. Because before, like, a child price was like half the price of an adult, and that's the same amount.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. So.
And
that's from the age of 2.
Yeah. But
Prior
up
to that,
to
you've got to
2.
pay taxes for them.
Yeah. But they're on your lap, aren't they? 0 to 2.
Yeah.
But during that 0 to 2, it was lockdown. So I missed all. I had stuff booked, and I missed all of my holidays because from 6 months till 2, we were in lockdown, so we didn't really get to travel.
Yeah, like Zion had to sit on either of our laps like the whole time on every single flight.
Wow.
And I was like, to keep a toddler still for that long is impossible. Like, I mean, there were other kids on the flight like screaming, so I was just like, oh, thank God, it's not just mine. But yeah, and like you said, you're paying half the price of an adult ticket.
Exactly.
For them to just be on your lap.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Well, I feel like a few people have said what you said about not paying the fine, and actually it just gets taken out. So I might be taking a tip there
because
because
the school, it's up to them
the discretion
to let them know, to let the council know the kids have been out of school.
Well, yeah, but we've got a house in Jamaica that it was almost going into adverse possession if it hasn't already, because the maid that lived there kind of wasn't paying the taxes, or she was paying the taxes, and there was something going on. Whoever was looking after it over in Jamaica was doing something they shouldn't have been doing, and now it's like, do we even own that house anymore? So that was our reason, our circumstance of why we needed to get the time off, and we needed to take Isaiah because he can't stay here for 2 weeks while his dad works the shifts that he works. And they said it was at their discretion, but no, our discretion is we've decided that no children should be leaving school. My mum was fuming. She rang the school. She's kicking off, but they were just like, sorry, we've made our decision. Got the letter. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to pay it because I don't want it to double or whatever. But yeah, I think I've got one more fine left before I go to court, so I might just take it.
Well, then I think some parents don't mind paying it because like, if you get the discount for the holiday, and it's like
saving a couple of grand,
it's actually cheaper, cost effective. Because I feel like that if you fly out on the Friday compared to the Saturday, the price difference is crazy. And
it is wild.
It is really crazy.
It's crazy.
When we went to South Africa in December, so at the time, our 2 oldest, they were at different high schools just to make my life more complicated. They wanted to do that. So one high school was like, oh, no, it's fine, because obviously we'd said it's for the wedding. We're not just going willy-nilly. And the other high school were like, no, reporting you, whatever.
It's mad, isn't it, how they can exert that?
So Mark was in year 7, so I'd emailed his school, and I was just like, this is insane. Like, I've told you why we're going, and everything was already booked, like, ages before. And then the headmaster emailed me and said, okay, it's fine. Didn't hear anything back, to be fair, so I'm guessing he changed his mind. But yeah, it's just like, when schools know the reason and they still just think no.
Yeah, I think it's all about control and authority and the way they speak to you in the letters. I'm just like, who you talking to?
I know.
But yeah, so I'm thinking for the last 10 minutes, what could we... I'm thinking, what could we cover? We've covered culture, where we've came from, how we've ended up living our lives. I guess, I know we shouldn't be keeping it like all about colour and culture, but how do you think about living here as like a woman of colour? Do you think that's anything you've got anything to say about, or?
Do you know, it's interesting that you say that, because my best friend sent me something the other day, and it was... someone had been to their therapist, and the therapist had said something to the effect of black women often don't realise that they are, or recognise that they are dealing or experiencing depression or anxiety, and instead they feel like they're failing.
Right.
So I think, that was really profound, because I've been speaking to my daughters. I have 3 daughters, 4 daughters. 4 daughters. I have 4 daughters. But 2 of them who are still at home, we were talking the other day, because there's been a few issues since they've gone back to school. One was where I had to call a teacher because one of my daughters had gone back to school. I'd retwisted her hair.
Oh, gosh.
She had a few beads in the front that are clear. And one of the teachers was like, how was your summer holiday? My daughter was like, yeah, it was great, thanks. And the teacher had said to her, I really like your hair. And then in the next breath they said, is it allowed?
The teacher said that?
The teacher said that to my daughter. So my daughter was like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? She's like, well, you know, is it allowed? And she was like, do you want to give me a bit more information before I respond to that?
Yeah. Oh, what you mean? Yeah.
So the teacher was like, you know, I'm just asking if your hair's allowed.
Wow.
So my daughter didn't say anything, but she had gone the whole day at school and come home and said this to me. And I was like, and what's this teacher called? I need to ring up. So we've been having a lot of conversations lately. And, you know, I did speak to that teacher and said, you know, don't let me quote the Halo Code to you and let you know what you're doing is illegal. And, you know, my daughter was born with that hair. So what do you want her to do with it? What do you mean, is it allowed? And we had this long conversation. The teacher was very embarrassed. She took it because that's what I had to say to her. I was like, we're not going to be policing anything on my children or any other children in the school, first of all. Secondly, you know, I don't know what your background is prior to being in this school, but it's multicultural. So get with the programme. But, you know, I also had to, you know, say my daughter was affected so much by that conversation. It was one of the first things that she said to me when she came home. And in the end, the teacher was like, oh, I really didn't mean it and I'm sorry and I put my foot in it and blah, blah, blah. And she said, but really and truly, I was asking her about the beads. And I said, but you weren't, because my daughter asked you on several occasions, what do you mean by is my hair allowed? And I said, you didn't mention the beads.
Right.
So I said, so if
it was about the beads,
that,
right,
then my daughter would have given you a different response. So, you know, I did say, you know, these are conversations that we need to have, and I'm the biggest advocate for my children. You know, I will stick up for them through everything, but these are conversations that we need to have. And 100%. I think, you know, society, you know, unfortunately I've had to say to my daughters, society treats black women in some of the worst ways.
Yeah. And it's difficult. I think as a black mother, you do have to advocate just that little bit more. And I think there's been times in my life where I've been like, okay, am I being overly sort of protective or not? Because I remember my son was in nursery and on his way, there was this sort of shop we used to stop there and he could get a little something on the way, and he'd chosen these like cool sunglasses with little smiley faces in the lenses. And when he got into nursery, the person who received him says, oh, hello, Isaiah. Don't you look like a little rapper, a little Jay-Z this morning? And I was
Oh, hell no.
Let me just pat my hair before I pat your face. Come on. I felt highly triggered by that because I thought, don't profile him. If that was James O'Brien who'd come in with those sunglasses, would you be profiling him as Jay-Z or a rapper? No, you'd probably say, oh, you cool dude. So why do we have to lace comments to young black children as I feel like it was a bit of profile? Not that Jay-Z's a bad guy. I just felt, you know, where's the line? Am I overreacting here?
I don't think you
are. No?
You know, because the other incident was my daughter had period pains. So she'd gone, my daughters are allergic to paracetamol, so they have ibuprofen, which they keep at the first aid. So she was late for one of her lessons because she'd gone to get some. And first of all, the teacher didn't know that she was in her lesson. So she was like, are you supposed to be in here? And my daughter was like, yeah. And then she was crying because she was in quite a bit of pain. And secondly, the teacher was like, well, what's wrong with you? And when my daughter explained, she was like, oh, they're just period pains. Stop being so dramatic.
Was that a woman teacher?
Yes.
That's crazy.
So that's another conversation I had to have. And I was like, don't you ever trivialise a child's pain, first of all. You know, that could have been the first time she ever started her period in school. You don't know what was going through her mind. You don't know the gynecological history of our family. And if anybody's going to call my child dramatic, it's going to be me. So these are all the things. And that stems from all the medical experiments done.
And that does remain
for centuries. So, you know, we have a high pain threshold. So how could we possibly be
That
in
just
pain?
reminded me as well of that when they don't think you're in pain. And it's like, how do you know what I'm feeling? Like, it's crazy. It's not nice. I think it is like a struggle, but also advocating for your children and letting them know. And I think for my daughter, she's very like timid, but I'm the same. Whenever she comes home, like when I used to pick her up, I'd always say, how are you? If my daughter was in a mood, best believe I'd fling open my door. I was like, come on. And she'd always be like, no. And I'm like, Tanea, you're not comfortable to speak. I will go tell the teachers because it's not okay. Like in her primary school, they had this thing where like the brighter kids, if another kid was struggling, they'd have to like miss their break to help them because they've not finished their, little things. I'm like, what do you mean you ate at break time today when you've done your homework? Or they'd sit Tanea next to the bad kid And it's affecting her. So every day she's coming home and I'm like, Tanea, I need to tell the teacher. And then when I tell the teacher, they'd act like, oh, yeah, it's fine. But I'm thinking, if I didn't say anything, you would allow that to continue for the whole term. And like, it's okay. So now you're affecting her ability to learn, her ability to enjoy. And it's these little things where they think they can just do it. And, you know, most kids they don't understand fully, but they understand it makes them uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? And I think teaching them to really advocate for yourself, because it's true, we have got that label of angry black woman, and maybe that's why you think I'm overreacting, because it's already so programmed in you.
It's programmed in you, and that's 100%. Why people start, because I even said to that teacher, I said, you know, you saying to my daughter she's being dramatic, it could be a serious incident that's happened and she has that window of feeling like she can speak out about it, and then for you to tell her she's being dramatic, that could stop her from speaking about things ever again.
Removing that voice.
Exactly.
And that's what really scares me about having my son outside of the house.
It's very frightening.
It scares the living daylights out of me.
And as black mums of black boys.
Oh my God.
My heart, literally.
Honestly, every day.
Somebody once, and he was a white guy, and we shared space in a building, and I can't remember what we were having a conversation about, but I just said in passing, I said to him, you know, I'm the mum of a black boy, said, you know, so it's natural for me to take a picture of my son every single morning when he goes to school, so that if he comes home with a scratch on him, I've got photographic evidence. And he stopped dead in his tracks and he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, every day that my son's gone to secondary school, he's 6 foot tall. I take a picture of him, he waves to me through the kitchen window and I take his photo. I said, because if anything happens to my son, I said, you know, stop and search, profiling, any of that. I said, I've got photographic evidence. And, you know, he literally broke down in tears in front of me and I just couldn't comprehend that, because it was second nature to me. But it shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean? I say these things casually, but should we be doing these things? We shouldn't.
I know, it's really scary.
It's very scary.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
but I think, I don't know how it looks in, like, other countries, because I feel like over here I don't feel very safe as a black woman, or as the mother of a black boy, because I feel like there is a lot of profiling. I feel like there's these preconceptions, but I think, okay, so how does that look in other countries? So if we look at Jamaica, for example, I think over there, they're still getting like beats in school, and they're trying to be westernized in the education system. From what I hear, they're trying to do British curriculum in Jamaica. So I'm like, it's like, how do you escape this indoctrination? And I think I feel like our generation now is really thinking, how do we overcome this? What can we create? So you've got things like conscious classrooms now, where it's an independent school that's sort of, they'll do mindfulness practicing, they'll do forest schooling. I think we're getting to the point where some people are doing blended schooling, so they're taking the kids out of school for 2 days a week. Because I think, why have you got my kid for 40 hours a week? Like, you see them more than me. And I feel like that parent-child separation culture, it's just so damaging for the parent, 100%. For the child, because that bond, as much as you can never get rid of it completely, I find my heart like aching for my son. Not only have I got to share him with school, I've got to share him with his dad, and it feels like I'm pining for my kid a lot of the time, and it actually then affects my ability to, I guess, look after myself, because I'm actually just aching for my child. So I think we're lucky in the sense that we are waking up to things and understanding that actually we can change things and we can create solutions, as much as it's not going to be easy. Like the village things creeping in, the groups, the mums groups coming together, and I guess just having these kind of conversations really does help, and helps us understand that.
Yeah, because I feel like in some cultures, they don't even start school till they're like 7. And 7 is a predominant age where like your kid's meant to be in your room till 7. Not necessarily share the bed, but they're meant to be, you know what I mean? All these things. And I think that doesn't affect them education-wise. They're still very clever from 7. That's when, and I think it builds just a sense of, we're missing out on like so much community, so much thing, because the things that you could be doing with your child, teaching them how those basic skills that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people don't know how to do basic stuff. And it's this whole idea that schools do not teach you everything, and the things they want you to know do not carry you through life. You know what I mean?
It suits their agenda, and it keeps us at this like limited level of knowledge. And I find it wild how they've got all of these subjects, because not every child needs to know all of that.
Yeah.
I think, okay, when you get to uni, you're going to go deep into what you're going to go into. So why are we not bringing university level education in at 13, 14, where the kids can then specialise in what really speaks to them? Because they're doing all this stuff and their brain's all over. Obviously, I was a high performing child, but I had ADHD. I found the work like easy. I can memorise something, I can do it there and then, but ask me about that next week as the test is done, I'm not going to be able to retain that information. It's not important to my brain, but it took a whole load of processing and is therefore absorbed and taking up space in my learning space, and it wasn't really valid, or I don't use it now. So I just think in terms of the curriculum, there's just so much more we could be doing to fight. And
it makes all the kids be the same. There's no individualism. There's no everyone's trying to be the same. Like it just takes away.
One size fits all. Yeah, that's what school kind of does. But all of us have got kids in the mainstream education system, right?
I regret it.
I do. I think, it's hard though, isn't it?
There are definitely 3 of my children who are just were never designed for the education system. One of them's in school now. Do you know what I mean? She'll go to school, but every day when she comes home, I'm like, how was school today? She's like, it's school. It's a building, isn't it, Mum? You know what I mean? It's school. And it makes me feel really guilty, But she goes, but I also wish I had the means to have other things, resources available to her. Because I think, at the moment, when they're a certain age, like under 7, there's a lot more going on rather than if you've got somebody who's going into their teens, resource-wise to homeschool. So...
You did it as well, didn't you, for a little bit?
and then we homeschooled Marcus and Destiana for a little bit, and then they wanted to go back to school. Destiana's she's very social. She found the social aspects of homeschooling. She didn't find it good. She was like, I'm not meeting people in the same way that I was when I was in primary school, and that's why she opted to go back to school. And the same for Marcus. But yeah, that's something that we wish we would have done from as soon as they were born, basically. Never sent them to school. I wish we would have just done that.
How are they finding school now, though?
So Marcus, year 6 to year 7 was a big change for him. I think the size of the school, the constant change, for different teachers, lessons, etc. He struggled to adapt to that for the whole of year 7.
Right.
Now that he started year 8, he's good. He does enjoy it.
Okay.
He's also one of those children, he just gets on with his schoolwork. He always wants to do the best. Destiana, polar opposite. She is finished with school now. We're still waiting on college. But she was definitely in school for the social side. Honestly.
Yeah.
She really was.
She that girl. Yeah. She's beautiful. But no, that's good to hear that they made that decision.
Yeah.
And obviously followed it through kind of thing. My son did the same thing, I think, maybe with a little of influence from his other parent. But he decided, I said, look, if you make this decision, then we're going to have to adapt life around that. And it's not easy to undo that again. So I tried to make him think about it, but he's 5 years old. Yeah. He chose school based on the playground that he doesn't get to play in because that's for reception. So it's can I change now? Sorry. But he's I think he's doing okay in terms of, it's just very regimented. The phonics, they do this. And I think before he's just gone into year 2, they were only allowed to play football on a Friday. They used to take the ball out of the playground on every other day and only put it in there on a Friday. And I'm like, is this jail or just give them the ball? All little boys need is a ball and they'll be happy.
But just be allowed freedom to just play.
Yeah.
Even in school, just have the choice to choose. I want to go outside. I don't want to be doing phonics.
Yeah, because there would be a way. I feel like the way that they teach the things, it's not necessarily what they're teaching. I think it's how they're teaching it, because we can learn phonics in a way that is creative or playful, but they choose to do it in this real, I can't explain it, but it's not fun. No, they keep it so bland. And I think that's what my son hates. He hates sitting down. There's been the first school that I tried, I took him out because he was racially abused quite a few times, but they would put a band on his chair for him to kick. And I don't know how I felt about that, because they said he was really couldn't sit still and he would do cartwheels to go and get his water. So they'd been observing him. without my me knowing originally, but then when they brought things to my attention and said, he's doing this, he's doing that, what exactly is he doing? Oh, well, he's done cartwheels to get his water. He does roly-polies all the time. He can't sit still. When he's going to get his fruit, he'll get like 7 pieces of fruit. I'm like, right, so your point is what? They were like, well, he's under observation. We're going to observe him. And I was like, for what? And I think they were looking at the likes of ADHD and all that. We come from a family of ADHD. I'm assuming he's probably got that in him. But yeah, sitting him on a chair with this rubber band on it, I just felt like, just feels a bit concentration campish. Do you know what I mean? He's not in that school anymore, and I think since he's gone to this new school, he seems to have got a little group of friends, and there's like so far no racism. But yeah, I guess lastly, have you guys had any encounters where the kids have come home or they've had any racial, anything racial happen at school? Because you'd think it would be like common-ish. I've only experienced it in one of the schools, and now I'm in this other school. There's just there hasn't been anything like that.
I think there's a lot of colorism that goes on in the community in schools, which is really unfortunate.
In terms of like shades of colours or textures of hair.
That whole thing, which really infuriates me, because I think, in this day and age, that it shouldn't be existing anymore, really. Do you know what I mean? I mean, when you look at my children, they go from very dark to very light, do you know what I mean? And everything in between. And that's what I've always taught them, do you know what I mean? 2 parents can create children that look completely different or have completely different complexions.
But I think with the Western society is so ignorant, and the lack of understanding that melanin has, do you know what I mean? It's basic. That's why it's like that, but it's so ignorant. I think with Black culture, people just take what they want, and it's so much appropriation. They take bits of what they want, and it's so like micro, but it's very much in your face. Do you know what I mean? But
it's almost like we're gonna take it and turn it into a trend before
when it suits us,
and it doesn't. We won't acknowledge that, like where it came from, kind of thing. But
it's the understanding as well. I mean, my daughters, I love my daughters. I mean, they're great, but as they're getting older, you're just like, this is so exciting. When we put the 2-year-old to bed and we sit down and we have these conversations, because we were talking about this the other day, because one of them was saying, one of her friends in class was saying darky to another one, and she's like, but he's black himself. And I was like, well, that's not good, because clearly he doesn't feel good about his own complexion and his own identity, and he's got issues there. But then my other daughter was saying something like, there are people in her class that will shout out, oh, what are you having for dinner tonight? Chicken. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. And I'm like, excuse me. And she was like, so I'm always beefing with people in school because it's not acceptable. And I said, well, it's not, no.
It's not, no.
Those microaggressions, and I said, it's not funny.
They're the ones that I feel are so unnoticeable. They're even more sort of perpetuative of systemic racism because they're so micro. They dissolve easier into the fabric of everybody. Even the people of colour tend to then internalise some of those things and, self-stigmatise.
Yeah, and I think, as a parent, I know I'm doing my bit, but you don't know what other parents are doing. So when children are laughing it off in school, then it's seen as okay and it's seen as funny, and it's not. And so often they don't realise how much it affects them until they're getting into their older years, do you know what I mean? And then they kind of look at themselves in a negative light and they don't realise it's because it's been pushed on them.
So you've had those conversations
I've had those conversations with my girls, and it's something that keeps coming up, and I always say to them, speak out about it, don't laugh and join in, because then you'll have problems when you come home. Do you know what I mean? But, I get it. My daughters are 18 months apart, and one is a lighter complexion than the other, and it's like, people are like, are you actually sisters? Have you got the same mum and dad? Like, hello? My babies are 18 months apart. What do you think I was doing? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, yes, we have got the same parents, with just different complexions.
Yeah.
Why are they even asking those questions?
They can't understand it.
Obviously not being raised properly.
No.
I think there is that sense of ignorance, isn't there? And I think with me, I've almost struggled to envision. People are like, do you like white guys or do you date? What's your preference? And I don't really have a preference when it comes to like skin colour or whatever, but I think because of what you're saying there, you know, I was dating a Caucasian guy at one point, and there was this element of, well, imagine if I got with you, what people would be thinking. He's my saviour. He's come and saved me. I've got my dark-skinned kid and a white guy here. It's like, I thought about all of the prejudice I would receive, and actually thought, you know what? I'm probably not gonna go there. That was a big contributing factor, so I decided not to move forward with that guy. But I could never say that to him because that almost made me feel racist.
But it's I mean, I'll be honest with you. I do get put off.
Yeah.
Getting involved in a relationship with a Caucasian man, because I just feel to myself, relationships are hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
It's like, if we are seen out together, there will be things that happen that you won't see.
Yeah.
Not because you're blinded by that, but because we've lived different paths. You've been able to just go out as a white man and be that white man.
Yeah.
Whereas there are things that I will have to pull you up on or educate you on, and it's a lot.
It is, isn't it?
I just think it's a lot, and I'm not saying there isn't somebody out there that would be worth it, but you just want to know that there's certain things in life that you then don't have to educate people on, or that people are going to fight your corner no matter what. If they don't know what they're looking for, they can't.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
I
think that was what
all of your relationship.
Exactly.
It could be unfortunate because it wouldn't be
fair. It's not even fair.
It wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
I know two people, want the partner's white and the woman's like black, and they used to argue about creaming the kid's skin, and that is not an argument I'd ever want to have with my partner, and it's basic, but I think those little things where they don't really get it, like why do you need to cream, and it just makes you think like, wow, like
lotion.
You know how they always say like people just lack culture, there's nothing you have that you just take, and I think those little things, it really becomes draining. I think I was speaking to my friend one time who was Caucasian, and I was saying to her, someone said this to me, but her face was like, she couldn't believe it, like people are just racist, and I'm like, she'd never experienced anyone do any, and she couldn't even begin to imagine how that would even make you feel, do you know what I mean? And I think that's nice for you, and that you've never experienced it, but I feel like, how many times could we think of the time when someone's done something odd and we just kind of like put up with it, or you know what I mean? And it's hard because you do become that person, like, why is going on? Why? But it's like, do you know what you're saying to me is deep, and if I don't advocate for myself, who will? And that, as again, going back to black women, no one advocates for us. People will watch us ton up everything, but when it comes to black boys and black men, we will fight for our men, but they don't return that. And I think that also adds to the people just destroying us, because our own people sometimes don't even want to, you know, and it's
they
a
say
vicious
black
cycle.
Black men are the highest proportion of men that go and marry outside of their outside of culture, which everybody knows, really, don't they? But I think to see this.
Then what are those reasons? I think
it's like Uncle Tom? Okay. It's kind of like that. They want to get into the White House kind of thing. They want to get off the plantation without realizing all of these things are like inbuilt, that if you're kind of going lighter, it's getting better, because even language is laced with racism. Black male, blacklisting, dark clouds, dark is bad. There's nothing positive about the English language surrounding darkness, because it's be afraid of the dark, and you know, everything that is banning you from getting where you need to be. Black is a barrier. So we're building this thought, theory and fabric in our belief system that actually says black hinders us. And I think that really is one of the ideas that I think really we need to break. Once black love starts, if black love started to come back together and people prioritised, I guess things like Black Pound Day, I just don't think it's enough. We really need to invest in our culture, in black love, in black pride. And I said in the podcast yesterday, I think if we're not doing that and really acknowledging that to be black in this society is a different kind of living, then we're kind of selling out a little bit, and we've got work to do on that. And I think that sellout culture is heavier from the male side, because they might see us as, I don't know, having baggage or being problematic, but that's because we're having to advocate for ourselves, meanwhile being expected to advocate for our whole culture. So I just think it's important to raise these things and talk about them and let black men know that we are here for you. You just need to be here for us too. Please remember where you came from, boy.
I was thinking that this morning because I was thinking most black men love their mum. Their mum is their queen, but then it's you go out and you disrespect. I don't even get how, I don't get it. I've always thought that.
Do you not think that a lot of the black women who are raising the black men of our generation were going through something difficult, perhaps like what we're going through now? Single motherhood is not easy, and then there's all that there's that resentment being passed on and people struggling. That struggle, I think a lot of young black boys internalise, and they had to be the man of the house early, and they want to step away from that responsibility. And I think for me, you ask why do black men go outside of the race? I think now black men have been put on a pedestal in sports, on the TV. It's clear that they have an athletic edge, or, they're good actors or whatever it is. I don't think they've done the same for the black woman and put her on that pedestal, because they'll be tearing them down. Serena Williams, is she a woman? There was all that kind of conversations that are happening for women who are in successful positions. They want to pick at it, but when it's a black guy, Idris Elba, can't put nothing on him. There ain't no dirt on him. He even said, I don't see myself as a black man, kind of thing. Something ridiculous like that. I was like, wow, we are just whitewashing. But it's not I don't want it to come across as a negative thing. I just want it to come across as, okay, it's something that we should be thinking about, something we should be addressing, in the hope that more people sort of contribute to the collective thing. So
and I think conversations need to be had, and I think that's where our generation of parents, we need to kind of break the generational curses, because I've told my children from day, listen, I'm human like you. I'm gonna make mistakes. I don't have all the answers. Don't just think because I'm mum that I'm not going to make mistakes or I know what I'm doing. And I think my children have a real good sense of respect for me, because if I make mistakes or I do something wrong or I make wrong decisions, I apologise to my children.
Yeah, me too.
We sit down and we have that conversation. And I say, I don't have the answers. Do you know what I mean? Do you have any suggestions? My older children are just the most amazing young people.
Very emotionally intelligent, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And we can have conversations. And, if there are things that I have concerns with regards to their younger siblings, I think maybe I just don't relate to them because of my age or my generation or my way of thinking, they will take on that role because they can relate to them more. Do you know what I mean? And have those conversations. And they're happy to do so. And it's not about me putting those responsibilities on them. It's about me asking for their help. But there's a difference.
Yeah. I do think change is coming. I just think it's slow, because I think what you said with the generation that some of these men came from, but I think the generation that our kids are coming from, we're a lot more awake. So I feel like it is happening, but it's slow, because I think I'd like to think that when our sons grow up, they won't be in that mind frame, because we've done what we needed to do. We've had those honest conversations, and I think we are getting somewhere.
And our own baggage and things that we've got to unpick.
Yeah, definitely. I think our generation's actually doing really well. I think we're doing good, and I think as much as social media has had its cons or whatever, there's also the pros, which is that you can find your people, you can network with the right sort of set of people and have those conversations, and you see people, they're on that journey, let's connect with them. But one thing I've noticed is that before I got to this point where I went on this journey of reaching out and networking, I felt like I was afraid of my own race in a way. I can't explain it,
being around your own people.
Yeah, sort of when I'm out and about, if I look at a black girl on road, she don't want to look at me. I'm one of them, I'll look at you and I'll smile.
Yeah.
But
be friendly.
Yeah, but I just felt there was a stage where if I tried to do that with a black girl, it wasn't received. I feel like that's changing now, but there was a period where I was like, what's wrong? Why can't I smile at my own girls? It was more around Manchester Wifey's time. Remember that? Manchester Wifey's for life.
So
we was in a little girl growing. 192 up and down the A6,
literally all
graffitiing on buses. What the heck? But yeah, MW for life, baby. There's only one wife in this building, but it's fine. So been a beautiful conversation, guys. I think we've all contributed something lovely. It's all about progressive conversations and understanding, you know, where we can go, what we can do. So thank you all for sharing your stories and your beautiful children. Yeah, if you've got any final contributions, feel free. But I think I'm happy to say, yeah, it's been a beautiful session. Thank you all, like I said, for sharing your story.
Yeah,
so,
thank you for having me.
Thank you. So thank you for watching, guys. I'm your host, Neenagh Seemone. It's been me, Loreen, Giandre, and Monique. The Mama Crew.